Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today we have breaking news. The Wall Street Journal just released a bombshell article tying Donald Trump to, you guessed it, Jeffrey Epstein. So Mark Halperin earlier today had reported, and for those who don't know, Mark Halperin's, a reporter who sort of famously got Me Too'd. He worked for NBC, Bloomberg. Then he got Me Too'd, so he had to go away for a couple of years, but now he's back and has a platform called Two-Way. And this morning, Mark Halperin was sort of teasing that one of the major news outlets in the country was working on a story involving Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And and I'll play the clip just so you guys can have some context for the story that got released today. But Halpern was saying that, pretty much everyone within media and among the elites were sort of aware that this story was being developed by one of these major outlets, and yet the public wasn't made aware of it, so he wanted to discuss the possibility of the story. Here's the clip so you get the full context.
One of the points of this platform in the age of transparency is to narrow the gap between elites like Dan and Sean and the people like the Two-Way community and myself. So let me share something with you that everyone, I say that in air quotes, everyone I know knows, hasn't been publicly reported. Everyone I know believes a major newspaper, one of the top 3 newspapers in the country, is about to publish a piece about President Trump's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Okay? Everyone I know knows that. And people in the White House know that too. When that story drops, if it drops today, and some people think it might, it could drive the day. Sean, Dan, have you heard about this story?
Well, I know because it's been circulating on the left, and I've had to double check that this is not, in fact, total conspiracy theories. Donald Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein pretty well. And I believe that his early courting of Melania involved Jeffrey Epstein. And that has been reported by mainstream outlets over the last 10 years. Alleged, I guess. I want to be careful.
You've already been, I say with respect, somewhat careless, but keep going.
Yeah, but I think that, if that is where this report is going, it's just kind of collecting and putting together and synthesizing old news.
No, this story has new news. Sean, what do you know about this story?
I probably know about Dan level,
right.
But I don't.
Let me throw out some questions. Let me throw out some questions, and I'd like you to jump in. Let's do game show style. Either answer them or say, in fact, we don't know. Ready? How did Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein meet?
I don't know.
Don't know. Did Donald Trump ever go to Jeffrey Epstein's townhouse?
Yes.
How many times?
I believe many.
So you get the picture. That was his basic reporting, that one of these major news outlets had a story brewing regarding Trump and his alleged ties to Epstein. Well, the story broke just a few minutes ago, like 20, 30 minutes ago from the time of me recording this podcast. And it was the Wall Street Journal, one of Trump's least favorite outlets. The Wall Street Journal, for those who don't know, the Wall Street Journal has always sort of had a conservative bent, probably the most well-regarded outlet that's perceived to be right-wing. They're not really right-wing. I mean, at best, you could say they're sort of like a neocon, old-school establishment, Republican-leaning outlet, but they're certainly not like a MAGA outlet. And Trump's been very critical in the Wall Street Journal in the past. But they broke this story, and the story has to do with, allegedly, Trump sent Epstein a letter for his 50th birthday back in 2003, and it was apparently a raunchy letter. And I'm going to read you some of the article and read you what Trump allegedly sent Epstein in his birthday card, I guess. The letter bearing Trump's name, which was reviewed by the Journal, is body like others in the album. It contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker. A pair of small arcs denotes the woman's breasts, and the future president's signature is squiggly Donald below her waist, mimicking pubic hair. The letter concludes, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." In an interview with the Journal on Tuesday evening, Trump denied writing the letter or drawing the picture. This is not me. This is a fake thing. This is a fake Wall Street Journal story, he said. I never wrote a picture in my life. I don't draw pictures of women, he said. It's not my language. It's not my words. And specifically, what some of the dialogue supposedly was in the letter was voiceover. There must be more to life than having everything, the note began. Donald. Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey. Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald. We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Jeffrey. Yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald. Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? Jeffrey. As a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Trump. A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. So that's basically the story that Trump sent and wrote Epstein a raunchy happy birthday card. That's the big story Halpern was talking about earlier today. Now, a couple things. Number one, I don't think this letter is particularly incriminating. Like I'm seeing people like Chris Hayes saying on Twitter or X. It is a little weird that Trump suggests that, there's perhaps a secret that the two share, but that can mean a lot of things. It doesn't mean that Trump was having sex with children on his island, on Epstein's island, okay? Let's just be clear. But the second thing is, I don't think Trump wrote that. That doesn't sound like anything Trump would write. I don't believe for one second Trump drew a picture of a naked woman, and that Trump would write what I just repeated back to you, and almost like a poem, like back and forth in the third person about Trump, about himself and Epstein. Does that really sound like something Trump would do? I mean, I guess you never know, but that doesn't sound like something Trump would do. That's just weird. And the Wall Street Journal acknowledges this, that Trump's already planning to sue. He, about 20-ish minutes before this story dropped, there were already reports that Trump was trying to convince the Journal to not publish the story. And when this story was published, the Journal has acknowledged that Trump's basically threatening to sue them. If they, basically saying, if you publish the story, I will sue you. Because Trump is denying that that's his words. And I believe him. I don't think Trump said that. I don't at all. Again, it doesn't sound like him. That's not his MO. It's just, and he's not drawing pictures of women. As Trump said, that's not what, he doesn't do that. He doesn't make drawings. So why is the Wall Street Journal now writing hit pieces about Trump regarding Epstein? Is there more information that's going to be coming out? I'm starting now to think the theory that Democrats, when they were in control of the government, when Merrick Garland was the Attorney General under Biden, those 4 years when they had the Epstein information in their control, I'm starting to believe more and more they did meddle with those files to try to incriminate Trump, probably once they were leaving out the door when they knew Trump, after the 2024 election, when they knew Trump would be coming in. Because remember, these DOJ folks were the same people who were trying to put Trump in jail during the election. They indicted Trump twice, the Biden people, Jack Smith. They were trying to get Trump to trial before the election to try to get a conviction in one of the two federal cases against Trump before the election. They were unsuccessful. Trump then wins. What would be a great sort of final fuck you from the Biden DOJ against Trump? Meddling with the Epstein files, which they know the Trump base wants to release, meddle with them to make it look like it incriminates Trump, when in reality, there's nothing there, actually. I'm starting to believe that happened, and that's why the Trump White House has been so resistant to releasing, it would explain why the White House has not been transparent, why Pam Bondi, at first the current attorney general, was saying she has the files, but then later the FBI says the files don't really exist. All that crap. I'm starting to believe the reason that happened is they looked into the files once the Trump people got in, and they realized that there had been altercations to these Epstein files to make it look like there was incriminating information about Trump regarding the files. And I think Trump knows this, and I think Trump, having had to deal with Russiagate during his first term, that totally encumbered most of Trump's first term for, for 2.5 years of the 4 years Trump had was mostly focused on Russiagate. I think Trump was basically trying to prevent having a repeat. He was trying to, try and prevent the snowball from actually snowballing by trying to cut it from the head to begin with by saying, there's nothing here, we have to move on. Because I think Trump knows those files were messed with to try to make him look bad. And the Wall Street Journal, like I said, is sort of an establishment conservative outlet. I think in the heart of hearts, people at the Wall Street Journal would still like to take Trump out. And now they're releasing this information about this letter that Trump probably didn't write, because I think the Wall Street Journal knows more information either exists or will come out to try to incriminate Trump regarding Epstein. I think this may be essentially the deep state's final plot against Trump. Not to sound too much like a conspiracy theorist, but if you're the deep state, what else can you use against Trump at this point? You impeached him twice, indicted him 4 times, tried to get him killed twice, with one attempt actually striking him, hitting him in the ear. None of it worked. Trump won a second term anyway. What else can you throw at the guy? Probably the only thing you can really do to try to destroy Trump's legacy at this point, which is all you can do, or, try to get him impeached a 3rd time, would it be say that Trump was having sex with minors? That could be, if you think of it, that would be probably the best the deep state could do against Trump at this point. Accuse him of essentially being a pedophile. Because, it's one thing to be accused of, a white-collar crime or crimes having to do with national security, which Trump was charged with. At the end of the day, none of those crimes really had a victim, which is probably why the charges never really hurt Trump politically. But if Trump was credibly accused of being a pedophile, that's a whole different ballgame. And the deep state knows this. And when I say the deep state, people always don't like the term deep state because, a lot of people don't like to define it. The deep state is just the administrative state, the forever bureaucracy that never leaves, the unelected bureaucrats. That's what the deep state is. People within the CIA, the FBI, those people. Just to be, when I use the word deep state, I'm referring to the bureaucracy, essentially. So what should the White House do? How should they respond to this? Well, I think for now, the White House shouldn't respond to it. The story by itself is really not that damaging. It's a raunchy birthday letter to a friend who remember, Trump kicked out Epstein and Mar-a-Lago a couple years later. I believe this letter was in 2003. In 2007, Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for being a creep. Remember that. So I think the White House, for now, should just ignore it. Don't comment on it publicly. I'm sure Trump will, because Trump will get pissed, because the media is going to go crazy with all the left-wing channels and online sites. They're going to go crazy with this letter information. So Trump will probably make a public statement, but they should just wait to see more information is going to come out. And if my theory is correct that the files have been altered, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino should hold a press conference and just go into great detail. Maybe Trump could be there as well, but those 3 should go into great detail explaining that the files have clearly been altered with, get some sort of forensic evidence to prove it, and say that they can't release these files publicly, at least not yet, because they've been tampered with by the Democrats before they got in. That's what they should do. We need transparency. And right now, Trump looks guilty because of the incompetence of Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino to some degree. And now you have the Wall Street Journal releasing this, this hit piece. It does make Trump look guilty. So the White House, they shouldn't respond to this story directly. They should wait. But they should use this as a reason to release more information about Epstein. We need more transparency. If my theory is correct, they should just acknowledge it, saying that we believe Democrats altered with the files. Therefore, we can't release them because they're damaged. Very simple. And again, Trump shouldn't publicly talk about this story because it's not going to help. It'll make Trump look more guilty, knowing what he's likely to say. Can't control Trump. I understand that. The White House can't control Trump. So Trump's going to do what he's going to do. But the White House should forget about the Wall Street story. They should be focused on explaining why they believe these files have been altered with. And I think politically that's a smart thing to do. I think it's probably the reality. That's the reality of what happened. and see what happens from there. But the Wall Street Journal is a terrible outlet. They're running hit pieces against Trump because they want to damage him politically and his legacy. And Trump shouldn't take a debate on it, but he probably will. But I will say this makes Trump's comments about Epstein make more sense, because I think he's aware that the deep state altered the files, and he's aware that there are going to be leaks to unfriendly media outlets to try to hurt Trump politically, damage his legacy, and probably try to get him impeached if Democrats take back the House in 26. I think that's why Trump's been so pissed about the Epstein stuff. So this all makes sense now, to be fair. Again, I don't think this is because Trump has anything to really do with Epstein in terms of his island or having sex with kids. I still don't believe that. This letter doesn't prove that at all. What it does prove, I do think, is the theory that Democrats altered the files, 100%. And the theory that Epstein is the next ploy to use against Trump to discredit him and try to get him removed from office early again, I think this proves it. Because I think you're now going to see lots more leaks from the media trying to discredit Trump as a pedophile, basically. It's disgusting, but I think that's what's happening. And I think Trump knew it. That's why he's been so critical of people pushing the Epstein stuff and why he's been calling it a Democrat hoax. So Trump's comments and actions make a lot more sense now with this context. And, we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting few days and probably months, honestly. And we'll see how this saga unfolds. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on YouTube. I have a lot of big plans in the works for this channel on YouTube specifically, but all the networks. So I appreciate the support. You guys have a good day. Bye-bye.